Good afternoon, this is Nicholas from Gandora Gaming, and I bring you all my ban list prediction. I'm super happy to say that I have analyzed this format very well, because this format is stale as hell. I don't care what anyone says and says the tier element mirror is skillful, but I don't give a shit. Be honest with yourselves. Any tier 0 format where there's only like 3 decks at most, and we're saying barely 3 decks. There's really only 1 deck and like 2 other decks that sometimes win. Let's just go in straight into this. This is my opinion. If you have any comments or any other opinions, put in the comments. This is going to be a different ban list. I have my hopes, dreams, desires, everything I want coming out in this next ban list. I want it to be a murder fest. And even though I play tier elements, I love them to death. We need some mega hits. We need to make this format diverse. I remember right before Power of the Elements, actually even during Power of the Elements, the format was pretty diverse. Then the Seijus came out and Darkwing Blast, and the shit hasn't been diverse since. It's been tier and tier and tier and some Splight and some Flu. That's it. And don't get me wrong, there's some really powerful decks, so we can't just completely murder these decks and not touch those decks either. So let's just go straight into this. So first things first, these are what I think my tier elements hits would be. We have 1 tier element Penarino. We have 1 Hoffiness, 1 Sheeran, 1 Merly, 3 Rhino Hearts, and then 1 of the Fusion Girl, Kakalos herself. So here's my reasoning for this. 1, the field spell is too broken. It's like 1, it searches any of the tier elements. 2, it pops cards every turn. And 3, it gives you a 500 boost. This card is stupid for like 5 different reasons, and it definitely needs to be put to 1. The Konami has already put it to 1 in the OCG, and it still isn't enough. So 1 right now, and that's just my opinion. Same thing with Hoffiness. Hoffiness is a 2 of in the OCG. I think that's perfectly fine. We don't want to completely murder them out of existence. That's my opinion. I'm never for Dragon Ruler in a deck or an archetype. I always feel like putting it to 2 to 3 is always the best. Hoffiness is 2 is fine. You don't want to see Hoffiness too much in hand. Not to mention, Hoffiness is the only real hand trap they play. So yeah, it sucks to ash on your turn 1, but sometimes you gotta do it, and this makes it less likely for them to have it in hand. 3 Sheeran. Sheeran is not the issue with tier elements. She has to discard a card to summon herself to mill 3. She's perfectly fine at 3. Merly on hand needs to be at 1. This card is stupidly good. The fact that it just on summon mills 3 and hold a mill 8 combo is pretty stupid. And the fact they can do it multiple times a turn is ridiculous. Same thing goes for Rhino Heart. Rhino Heart at 3. Rhino Heart's perfectly fine. We won't even play 3 Rhino Heart. We played at 2 anyway. So eliminating this card really isn't that big of a deal. So I think 3 is just fine. You can leave it there. Now, here's my opinion on herself. I think she probably should be banned, but personally, I don't want her to be banned just because I never feel like Dragon Rulering a card is never good. Not to mention, we are playing a fusion that requires her as material, and I don't want to be King of the Swamp is the only way we can make her anymore. So in my personal opinion, putting her to 1 is great, because if she is banished, you're not getting her back, period. Now, you're probably thinking that's as a half measure, but now if you look at our Seiju hits, I feel like it'll be fair. So our Seiju hits are bam. We're putting all of them to 1. This is actually Dragon Rulers. Forget what I said about how we don't Dragon Ruler archetypes. We're Dragon Rulering these Seiju cards. Every one of these cards is too busted to leave at 3. I consider just banning the mill 5s and keeping the shufflers as like a really cool, just like, ooh, it's an Earth engine you play. It's like really interesting idea. But personally, nope. They're just too broken. They're broken in the Churia Runic. They're broken in a Seiju tier element. They're broken in almost like 12 other archetypes. Most likely, we just need to ban them, or at least put them all to 1. Right now, I have it as 1, but you can probably persuade me to put the what's called the mill 5 guys to ban, and then leave the shufflers at 3. Even though the shufflers are the most annoying part of the deck, but I don't know. It's really debatable. Honestly, all these cards are evil in their own way, and they should never have been printed to begin with. So It's really hard to explain these cards. If you don't want to Dragon Ruler them, which I'm kind of am doing, you would ban, what's it called, the Millers, and you would keep the Shufflers, because the Shufflers by themselves need to be milled. They'd be good. Having a whole bunch of Shufflers in hand is not good. And I don't know if Tier Elements is still playing 3 Shufflers both if you have no way to get them out of hand. We're also talking about Splight now, because this is the second best deck in the format. We either limit Elf, or we limit Starter, or we limit both. These are the 2 hits. I don't want to hit the monsters. Well, I am hitting a monster with Splight Elf, but I don't want to hit the XYZ, because the XYZ is pretty fair. It locks you into level 2, rank 2s or lower. Same thing with the other ones. They're cool. Blue, Jet, all of them. I don't think they need to be limited. I personally just think it's just Elf. Elf being recursion so many times is stupid. And definitely, if you just kill this thing, they won't have a way to get it back. And that really stops them from making plays. Because one of their biggest issues is their reoccurability. You can break their board, but all it takes is 1 card and they're back in it. So if you take away the Elf, they can't really rebuild their board that easy. So personally, I think Elf should be put to 1. And if you really want to hit the consistency, I guess you can put Starter to 1 as well. Starter is a pretty great card with a little cost. 800 life is not a cost to activate this thing. And that's just my opinion on it. Personally, these 2 can go to 1. And I think Spite will be a lot more fair and a lot more balanced. Now, it doesn't stop decks like Tier Elements from abusing Spite Elf. But if we put Merly to 1, I think it's less abusable, in my opinion, especially since we're not hitting any of the Bisteds besides Magnuma, which we'll get into. So that Merly is just going to be Magnuma bait, and I think it's going to be a lot more fair of a matchup, and that's just my opinion on it. I know you guys are probably still wondering about the Kid Kalos at 1 thing. I don't know. I feel like if we hit all these Seiju cards and we hit all these Tier Element cards, I don't want to have to ban one of their fusions immediately. I hate that. It kind of makes me feel like Thunder Dragons, where they lost Colossus and they only have the other guy left. I just feel like hitting the fusions isn't the right call. That's just my opinion. Now we have Stormwinds. This is the only flu hit. This is technically a early preemptive Kashtira hit too, because they can summon this thing off of one of their rank 7 dudes. Yeah. Do not hit the Raid Raptor card just because freaking Kashtira can summon out this damn barrier statue. This barrier statue has been the biggest issue. It's the reason why Stormwinds, that some Morg Link 3 was bannable. It's a reason for a lot of things being bannable. And this is probably the most unfair part about Flu. Get rid of this card. Flu is still a competitive deck that still wins a lot of games, but it's no longer as oppressive and as downright dirty as it has been. That's just my opinion. If you really don't like Flu, you can hit the field spell too if you want. But personally, I feel like this is the only hit to Flu. That's all we need. Dimension Shifter is a good card, but it's bricky as hell. They want to play it still? Absolutely. Keep it at 3. I don't know. And now it's time for the Kashtiras. We're not hitting them, guys. They haven't even had their chance to shine yet. Only Fenrir and maybe Unicorn have had seen any meta play. I know Kashtira might have just topped the regional or whatever, but we haven't even seen what Kashtira can do. Well, you can't I'm not against pre-hitting decks, even how annoying it may be. I think maybe we can hit some of the XYZs, but other than that, I don't feel like Kashtira deserves a hit. It hasn't had a chance to really shine, and I don't know. I just feel like murdering an archetype before it actually has a chance to even come out is not the smart way to go. Like I've seen like the OCG, they're like, oh, Fenrir is at 1, Unicorn is at 1, and Birth, we can put Birth to 1, we can put Unicorn to 1, we can put Fenrir to 1. I just don't see that's fair. They don't have that many monsters in the archetype. Yes, they'll get more once the set comes out, but Fenrir is literally like, let's forget about just Fenrir searching. Fenrir is possible in every deck, and it's Penguitops 2.0. Cool. It's also their monster searcher, and Unicorns are a spell searcher. That's really messed up to put them at 1 before they even have a chance to actually be like good in their archetype. Like if you put them to 1, it's just helping every deck play them as a Penguitops, and not the deck itself, which the deck itself hasn't really had a chance to shine yet. So that's just my opinion. Once the deck is out, I'll probably hate this thing, and I probably will want it at 1. But I just feel like Konami should not hit the thing before it comes out. Pre-hips are good when it comes to like FTKs, but Cash Tier is not an FTK. And even though their boards are pretty solid and broken, they're not unbeatable. Dark Rule No More screws them up, so that's my opinion. Alright, so now it's time to talk about the other deck. So Sword Soul, honestly, I have a check mark for it. I don't think Sword Soul deserves a hit. They're getting a new card next set, and I don't even think that's that broken. Sword Soul is a really cool archetype, and they're very one-minded. They don't really have that many... Like, they have cool combos, but their combos aren't really that great. It's very linear of a deck. And the best board it can do is Blackout plus a Omni Negate plus a Monster Negate. That's really the best board this deck can do. This deck's honestly a very fair deck, all things considering. Now, maybe when the decks are more fair, that this deck becomes more of an issue. But honestly, I don't really see what you would hit in Sword Soul. Because I don't want to hit Moi, I don't want to hit Long Young. I don't think the synchros are the issue. You could say emergence just to hit the consistency, but honestly, I don't even think Emergence is that bad of a card. You may say Baron, but Baron's getting a reprint, not to mention Baron's generic synchro for a lot of archetypes, so might be the deck that makes it the easiest, but that doesn't make it like a direct hit to Sword Soul. It does make Evil Long Young, which arguably is a stronger card in many scenarios. So honestly, Sword Soul doesn't deserve a hit, my opinion. Now, when it comes to branded, I know Bistol is right here too. Bistol is a Magnum Echo to 1. Too many decks are murdered by the Bisteals, like Sky Striker. Like, you can't play so many graveyard decks besides the Element just because they're so murdered by the Bisteals. So that's why I put Magnum at the 1. Personally, I can see Magnum being banned, but I do want Lubellion to be played, and this card does search Lubellion, so I don't want Lubellion branded to not be a deck. So I think putting Magnum at the 1 is fair, and if it needs to be more, we'll ban it. As for branded itself, everyone says Branded Fusion might be the card to hit. Personally, I think Branded is a very fair deck. They're locked into fusions. I think the biggest issue with Branded is when they summon out a stupid little statue guy and they give it to you or they give it to your opponent and you just lose. Like, I think Expulsion is probably the most broken card in that entire deck. And I don't even know, and I know not even all of them are playing this card. But personally, I feel like this is the most unfair card. The fact that you just activate this card, give your opponent a statue monster or summon out Scythe, and you just win the duel. That's pretty unfair in my opinion. So honestly, Branded as a whole is fair. I just think Exclusion is unhealthy gameplay. My opinion. That's really about it for the Branded cards and the Pistols. Now it's time to talk about Runic. I think the field spell needs to be put to 2. There is an argument to be limiting this card to 1, but you just kill normal pure Runic, and you still don't get to the issue of the deck, which is the decks that like play multiple of the field spell to get the multiple draws. Now, you could make an argument that putting it to 1 does stop that. And like, for example, the Churia Runic, which draws like 9 times a turn. But at the same time, I just don't want to kill Runic because now Cosmic Cyclone becomes a death sentence for that deck. And that's not really fair. So I think 2 is the best bet. It means they can't loop it too many times. They can only loop it once. And they only draw so many cards from this card instead of how many they're already doing. So personally, I think 2 is fine. If it needs to be put down to 1, it'll be put down to 1. I just didn't want to really hit Runic that hard. You can say you can put Tip to 1, which is argumentably a good idea. But honestly, this deck is already pretty fair, pure. The fact that you don't get a battle phase is pretty fair. And the Naturia Runic deck, same thing. The Splite Runic, same thing. You don't get a battle phase, so you're never killing your opponent. This has always been a controlled deck. So I think, personally, putting it to 2 is probably the best compromise. If you don't want to hit Tip itself. Putting it to 1 just kills Pure, and it just means this deck will always have to rely on other engines like Naturia and Splite. So in my opinion, putting it as a 2 is pretty cool. It doesn't kill Naturia, it doesn't kill Splite, and I think that's a fair compromise. That's just my opinion. You can tell me in the comments you should be at 1 or banned. All right, now it's time to talk about Griffin Rider, which non-controversial opinion. You can leave every Brave card at 3. If Griffin Rider is banned, it is fair. The fact that every deck gets a free Omni Negate is not cool, guys. This card just needs to go. Because right now Griffin Rider isn't doing shit. Because no one's really playing the Brave engine. But as soon as these tier 0, tier 1 archetypes die down, this engine's going to be insane. It already is insane. It just isn't being played right now because not really a deck to abuse it. But I'm telling you right now, Griffin Rider is the only issue to the Brave deck. It's always been the only issue. People who spent a lot of money on this deck can feel rejoiced that, hey, it's the rare card getting hit and not the secret rare card. And they can now have a reason to play the damn Dimension Force Illegal Knight. No one plays that card because of Griffin Rider. And if they do, it's like a one-of niche card. Now you can play Illegal Knight and not have to worry about a free Omni Negate protecting all your combos. This hits Phantom Knights. This hits Splites. This hits a lot of archetypes that would abuse this engine. It technically hits Prank Kids, but Prank Kids ain't doing shit since Meow Meow got banned. Which, spoiler alert, might be on this list. Now it's about other cards that are just no Breno, Super Poly, ban that thing, Scythe, ban that card, Dimensional Barrier, ban this card. All 3 of these cards are unfair and unfun. Super Poly is a great card, but it doesn't even hurt the best deck. You use Super Poly on a tier element board, all their shit floats. You Super Poly a normal generic deck and make Garuda or Mud Dragon, you literally end them. You murder them that turn. It's a very one-sided card, and the fact you can't respond to it is pretty stupid, in my opinion. So, yeah, Super Poly should never came off the list. This card is stupid, and I hate how games are decided off one card, and just in the discard cost is not a cost, my way. Same thing with Scythe. Scythe isn't really seeing play right now, but come on. Let's just deal with this card. This is the one thing that makes Baron unbearable. Because they can just go Baron, summon, affect the float, summon out Scythe from graveyard. Really stupid. They try to do something, you just negate with the Baron, and then bam, you're good to go. You're just Scythe locked your opponent, and you win a duel. So yeah, ban Scythe. Thank God Konami, come on. Dimensional Barrier, same thing. The fact you can just trap trick this card is stupid. The fact that it locks an entire deck out of its summoning mechanic is stupid. It's a very one-sided card that just one-sided wins the duel. Floodgates are one thing. They reply to both people. This is a one-sided floodgate for a turn that just literally says, hey, I'm game 3. I saw my side deck card. I win the game. Not a fair game, Konami. All right, now for the Pendulum buffs. Give, what's it called, Servant to 3 and put Metaphors, Electromite, and Kieran to 1. I don't think, even with these bumps, Pendulum itself would not be a meta deck. My personal opinion, I love Metaphors. Well, I love Pendulums, but I honestly think 3 Servant isn't going to break the meta here. Servant's a really cool card, but it requires counters. When was the last time Endymion was meta? Like 2019, early 2020? Endymion hasn't been meta forever. Not to mention, when it was meta, it was never the best deck. So, come on, give us back 3 Servant. As for Metaphors Electromite, everyone's saying, oh no, it's too broken, it's too good, Pendulum, best back. Oh no. When was the last time Pendulum has ever even got close to being one of the best decks? Yes, we had a new Draco Pal archetype that just got introduced. It's not really the new Dragon, you know what I'm talking about, the one that came out Darkwing Blast. That deck was meta for a couple of weeks, and the best it was a cool rogue deck. It's too complicated for anyone to play, and no one's good at it. No one's playing it besides Triff and a couple others. You give these cards these deck, the deck will be meta for a couple of days, and then bam, it'll fade off to existence, or it'll stay in the tier 1 zone, which Sword Soul, Brandon, and all the other archetypes already are, so that's fine by me. We need some Pendulum representation, and Kieran is a once per turn bounce. Whoop-de-doo. Okay, it can't be destroyed by battle or card effects. It's compulsed on legs. I understand. It's recurable. It comes back every turn. But I don't think Kieran controls the way to do this, guys. I honestly don't think Kieran is the worst issue. It's not in a great scale either. So, honestly, this card is just a compulse. I think we can get it back to 1. If you guys still feel like at 1 it's too much, you can always go back to banning these cards. Don't forget, these are I want Konami to experiment with these cards. Don't be afraid to take cards off and that haven't been on for like 10 years and put them back on again. Kieran hasn't been played since, I believe, Pepe format. I would like to see Kieran do something. Same thing with Metaphor's Electromite. That thing's been banned since like 2018. I want to see it do something. Alright, so now it's time to talk about this. Gazelle, put it back to 3. Salamangreats aren't doing anything. It's like the 4th best Cybers deck. As for Orcus, still bricky as hell. What's it called? Chaos Ruler's banned. We don't have to worry about Orcus combos. Let's be real here. Orcus isn't doing anything. We keep begging for Konami just to put this thing at 1. Honestly, Harper can go back to 3, and it still wouldn't do anything. But hey, here we are. Harper's at 1. It can stay at 1. As for Colossus, which is probably the one last archetype that hasn't had any removal, Colossus needs to stay banned. I don't care what anyone says. Colossus is a very unfair, friendly card. The fact that it's splashable is stupid. Until Konami erotics that thing to say you can only summon Thunders that turn, there's no way in hell is it okay for that card to even be out. And even then, it would still be playing Splice. So hell no. Just leave Colossus banned or print a new fusion monster for Thunder Dragons. That's how you fix Thunder Dragons. You want Thunder Dragons to be meta? Give them 3 other fusion monsters that are good. Give them some new support. Don't bring back a banned card that literally is mistake on legs that protects itself. Hell no. That's my opinion on these 2 cards. Gazelle isn't doing anything at 3. Harpor's not doing anything at 3, but just so that Konami can safely bring it back, put it to 1. Alright, that's my opinion on these. Now let's talk about the other cards. Zen Mage. You can bring all these cards back to 1. I want to see Block Dragon do something. I know everyone's like, you can't bring Block Dragon back to 1. It's a Dragon Ruler. It's literally broken. Emancipator for life, baby. And you know what? Absolutely. I want to see Rocks be meta again. We had Rocks meta one time ever in one format, and then never again. It wasn't even the best deck in that format. It was Eldritch that was the best deck in that format. With arguably Emancipator. Give back the Rocks, dude. I don't think one Emancipator Block Dragon is going to break the deck, and it's going to make it all so problematic. There's so many other issues that this archetype needs to deal with. I mean, research, all these cards are really, really cool. I would love to see a meta-competitive rock deck. Bring back the Block Dragon. As for Ancient Fairy Tale Dragon, bring back the field spell decks. ABC, things like that. Decks that play multiple field spells. That would be a great boost for those archetypes and make the Shudo have a really good target. Not to mention, it's getting an errata, so it's going to be a once per turn. It already came back from the OCG, give it back to us in the TCG. As for windups, Zen Mains, windups haven't been playable since 2012, 2013. You can bring back one Zen Mani. If you're really afraid about hand looping, just look at Dark Ruler. They ain't doing shit. And now it's time to talk about another one. We're giving back Prank Kids Meow Meow. I never thought I'd say this, but the format has changed so badly that let this deck have one Meow Meow. Cool, they have a 1-card starter once. That's perfectly fine with me. Meow Meow and Prank Kids is a very fair deck, which all these things sound crazy to me because, again, this Splice and Tier Elements have shaped this whole format. So if you told me early 2021, 2022, when this deck got hit, that this would be fair, I would not believe you. But holy shit, so many decks have eclipsed this deck that bring this card back, put Prank Kids back on the map, but don't bring it back to 3. Don't make it super recursive. Let's make it as a 1-card thing. Either they get their multiple pops, or they recycle this card and have a 1-card starter every turn. Make their decision. Metamorphosis. Non-searchable one-off. Spicy tech card I can see people play. What the hell are you summoning off Metamorphosis? That's my opinion. If you are, cool. You got the one-of. I don't think Metamorphosis is a broken card. Yes, you do tribute. You have to tribute a card on field to summon something with the exact level. If you're really afraid of his card. I don't know why. I don't get me wrong, there's some broken targets, like, what's it called? What's that damn dude? The guy who, like, guy from another planet. Cool. You know how difficult it is to have a level 7 and have Metaverse on field? I guess that isn't really the best option because we do have the Crush Tira. But let's be... Alright. I think Metamorphosis is a cool card. I think we should put it back to 1. If it does anything's broken, ban the thing. That's my opinion on the ban list. Hope you all enjoy. See ya.